Welcome. Weekly Whistle here with Vin and Lisa. We are so happy to share some news for this week and have everyone back. So please make sure that you check us out on Facebook, check us out on YouTube. Stay tuned in as we begin this awesome podcast. So
Awesome.
great weekend. What about you,
Yep.
Vin? How was your weekend?
Weekend was good. I was up in Buffalo. My daughter plays college Division II lacrosse, so we had a big game. So we came out victorious. But we're out on Long Island. Do you fly? Do you drive? It costs more to drive fly to Buffalo than to fly to Florida. So it's absurd. So we packed up the car. We left on Friday and came home Saturday night after the game. So long weekend, but it was good.
Okay, so you had a
Yeah.
win.
Yeah, we had a win. We
Good
had a
win.
win. We're in first place. So
Oh,
more
yes.
importantly, it enables us to play home for the playoffs. So that's huge.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's
And what
huge.
about you? What's going on in Florida?
Things are pretty good here. There was Greek Easter yesterday, and so
Yep.
we shared that with some lovely friends
All right.
in,
Peace be
in
with
theirs.
everybody.
Right. Yeah. Happy Greek Easter to those who share that wonderful holiday. There was also Divine Mercy Sunday. This was interesting. So I went to, church, Roman Catholic, and
Yep.
the priest relayed a really cool story. It was like sad at first, but then it led to obviously a very like spiritual ending. And I learned about Saint Faustina and how the Sunday after Easter, excuse me, became Divine Mercy Sunday. So something, it's nice to learn
Yep.
some new things over the weekend too, historical
Yeah.
stuff there and religious stuff. So that was kind of cool. And
Yeah.
then, of course, getting to see friends and family is always super special. So
That's awesome.
yeah, it's awesome.
Very, very cool. And that's it.
Okay, crazy stuff going on. Then
Lots.
I don't even know where to begin, but let's
Right.
start with the top of the chart because we're Long Islanders.
Yeah.
OMG, the Gilgo killer. What?
Yep. Yep.
What? First of
Yep.
all, I want to just say that his complete, like, neutral, nonchalant attitude. Look at his face right here in this
Yeah.
photo.
Yeah. He's a
He's
pro.
just like, I'm sorry, what happened? Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Strangulation. Yeah. Dismemberment. Yes, that too. Like nonchalant.
But look at the size of him. He's like 6'4". He's got to be 275 pounds. What a
Easy.
monster of a guy. Could you imagine any guy, but imagine somebody that size coming prying after a female? It's incredible.
Exactly.
The amount of force.
They were rather petite as well,
Right.
all of his victims. So Ray Tierney, the DA in Suffolk, did come out to say that he and, the other people involved in the case were also quite taken aback by this serial killer's complete
Yeah.
very
Just
neutral,
monotone, very
business-like,
monotone.
yeah,
Yeah.
monotone, business-like
Yeah.
a manner about himself. Like you strangled and dismembered multiple women
Yeah.
for over 30 years.
Over a decade. I think the first one's what, 93, somewhere
Yeah.
around there. It's
Yeah.
crazy. And that's the ones that we know of. I mean, who knows if he's went on a business trip and someone went missing. We don't
I
even
thought
know.
the same thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, so he pled to 7, right? And then an
Right.
8th one, he admitted, oh, yeah, that one
Yeah.
too.
One
But
more.
he's not going to divulge all of them, I'm certain. And there is no way that someone with this, like he was researching this, the materials they found
Right.
on his computer, like
On his
he was
computer.
deep diving and digging into how to cover his tracks better, make sure to, it's so gross, but
Yeah.
excuse me, hope there's no kids in the room,
No.
cut off their hands, be sure to, remove the head, like what?
Yeah.
And then you go to work in the city as an architect?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that I've had some friends that lived in that area growing up, and there was like during Halloween, they were kind of like, let's pass that house, let's skip that house. It was always kind of like creepy, a little
In
disheveled.
Massapequa.
Yeah,
where we lived.
Massapequa. Amanda, do you have a picture of like the Gilgo Beach, the actual beach where they found? Yeah. So for people who are not familiar with Long Island, that's Gilgo Beach. That's where all the bodies were found. And you know what, Lisa, you're a boater. I'm a boater. I've had my boat next to those islands hundreds of times. I could never imagine just, God forbid, a body just popping up and in a burlap or just that kind of thing. The other thing I wanted to show here, Lisa, this is a little bit of conspiracy. Look at how close Rex's house is to the Amityville Horror House. That was in the 70s.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. Yep.
Wow. I never knew that. Ooh. I know. You know what's crazy too is that part of the plea deal with the FBI is
Yeah.
supposedly that he is going to become part of their behavioral analysis science unit for
Yeah.
clinical interviews.
Yeah. What the
That
hell
was
does that
part of
even
the
mean?
deal.
Yeah. What does
Yeah.
that even mean?
What does that mean, right? So, and they said that he's obligated to be truthful and accurate and
Yeah.
complete in his testimony to them in this clinical unit. Like, I don't, this man clearly is between two I won't call it reality, but it is
Yeah.
between two reality. I don't think he understands what truthful
No.
is, right?
No.
And
And you know what really got him was that new DNA testing, which the judge allowed in, that mitochondria DNA. Because what
yeah,
that does is that, that goes for the samples, with the bones and the teeth, you get all that DNA. But if I remember correctly, it doesn't. You can't identify an individual positively, but it brings you into that direction. And I think what happens is because it's a maternal thing, it goes on the maternal side, which is
oh,
mind blowing. Because again, like I always say, I can't figure out how they put King Kong on the boat, and these guys are, trying to figure this out on the maternal side of this testing. But I think that accompanied with his, cell phone records, the burner
yeah,
phone, the emails. I always tell everybody, don't plug anything into your email. Don't be searching stuff. Even like when I do research, when I was doing
right,
research as an investigator, I was
right,
always like, yeah, I was on my work computer. But
yeah,
if I was home, hey, let me just try and look at something. I'd always make sure I phrase it correctly where I wouldn't be triggered in some, criminal sphere that, hey, what is this guy looking at? And
right.
that's one of the reasons why he got, between that, the DNA testing, it
Because that
just,
could be manipulated, right? Exactly. But
of
for in
course,
his particular case, for anyone else who, or journalists who may be researching, or for us, like we
right,
research, we do our background work for the podcast. I mean,
right.
if it's found and brought into a court
Yeah,
case, the prosecutor could twist it and turn it as they see fit.
yeah,
So, but in his particular case, too many things linked together. And here's one of the links that really kind of nauseated me, on top of everything else, was that he did this when his wife, his biological daughter, and his adopted his son, which was from the woman's first marriage or what have you, when they would go back to her home country, I believe in
yeah,
Denmark or what have, he would send them off alone for the first week and
yeah.
then meet them
Meet them.
supposedly there the following. So it was like a 2 week,
Yeah, so
uh,
maybe it was planned. Maybe he was
yeah,
just like, "Listen, it's time for a
that's
Denmark trip."
that's what they would put together, that each year at that time, that's what the FBI and the
Yeah,
other teams put
agencies.
together, that historical timeline, that when
Yeah,
they were away is when he would basically,
yeah,
that's when
and don't
someone would
forget
go
those
missing
teams,
or,
that was just one big task force.
yeah,
So, I mean, just, you have FBI, you may have, Homeland Security or
yeah.
CBP. You have all these different agencies with a little bit of, special tools that one agency has over the other, and they kind of work together with all this, and this is what comes out of it. You end up, solving your case, which has been great. It really
It,
was great.
It has,
Crazy.
because it really kind of it ebbed and flowed and dropped off. So it was concerning that they, had all of these bodies, but we never really had answers. And then I
Right.
know there was some type of documentary on it as well, and
Yep.
entwined in it seemed to be another kind of, very gossipy, let's say that, for with the Jimmy Burke, I think his name was,
Yep.
the chief of police for
Please.
Suffolk,
Yep.
that he also had some things going on, and then it's what caused a problem between the Gilgo killer and his particular issues that I don't think have come out fully yet either.
No, no, that's kind of
They
like a
didn't
side
find
story.
he didn't admit to
No,
Shannon Gilbert's death, Gilgo killer.
no.
So that is still falling now on the whole, I guess, chief police area. I'm not sure.
I don't know. That's a whole other topic we got to dig into and kind of figure that one out because there was rumblings of that, for years
Yeah.
about he was involved, he wasn't involved, he wasn't involved. I think
Right.
when Rex was finally arrested, I think there was a weight off of his back. Not to say that he did it, not to say that he's a saint, but
Right.
he was kind of implicated with some, he had some past actions that were questionable.
Yeah. I mean, he
Like,
served time,
yeah,
and then for some other various for the beating of the,
yeah,
arrestee that, and
right.
then whatever. So yeah, that was interesting, but nonetheless, it's wild how the case was stalled,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Because there was some other element playing a role. Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes you just go flat on a case and as an investigator, it just drives you crazy. You're
No.
just like, oh, where am I? And then something else, or you're waiting for, subpoena information to come in, or you're waiting for a decision for a judge. Can I do this? Can I do that? Or a U.S. attorney, or a DA or something. It just puts everything kind of like on hold, and you're like, oh my god, and then something pops up, and then you rock and roll again, and and
Yeah.
and, and it flips. Cases spin on a dime. I mean, you could be just, oh my God, nothing's going on. Nothing's going on. What am I going to close this case out? It's going to be unfounded. And then you get one piece of evidence that just flips you to a
Yeah.
different direction. And then you're back hot on the trail. And
Yeah.
it's fantastic.
Yeah. Our
So
viewers
good.
are very lucky to have you, Vin, because you
Yeah,
have that hands-on personal experience.
it's
So
fun. It, it,
that's
it was a
awesome.
great career. Yeah, it was a great career. Had a couple really good cases, and you know what? Traveled the world, and I have a small bucket list because of it. So I'm thankful.
That's
So
great.
yeah,
And now
but
we
we're
have
moving on
you.
next.
Yay.
Who is
Oh,
next?
this
This
was
is like
so
this is like the
sad.
yeah, this is half the show is based on crazy arrests this week and
Yeah.
convictions. It's crazy.
Crazy arrests. This one in the death of Matthew Perry. I
Yeah,
mean, it's just, and look at her. Look at this ketamine
yeah.
queen. I mean, here's this
Chan.
woman, attractive, this is what she deals in.
Yeah,
This is crazy. So Nikita Sanga pled guilty to manslaughter in Matthew Perry's death. She's only 34 years old. And prosecutors say the evidence had showed that Perry bought 25 vials from her for approximately 6,000
right,
4 days before his death.
right.
I mean, it is just so disappointing. And it reminds me a little bit of that movie that came out. It's the sound, or it was regarding the children who had been kidnapped and
Yep,
sex trafficked, and the person who orchestrated it was somebody who was famous for modeling in the South American countries. Another
right.
young woman who lured these children into believing they were going to be in commercials. I look at this woman now and I feel like that's the same thing. You are just a manipulator,
That's right.
deceiver, and it could care less that you
Ketamine's a
caused
big
someone's
problem.
death.
Ketamine's a big problem because, well, first of all, let's back up. She got 15 years of federal time, so that means she has to do 90%. That's a basic that she's got to, she's going to be in jail for a while.
Right.
I don't know what kind of proffers that are going to take place where she may just say, hey, listen, this doctor's doing this doctor's doing that, and they come up to some sort of agreement. But other than that, she's got to do 90% of her time. And then in the federal documents, it says that she operated in a high volume drug trafficking business
Yeah.
out of her North Hollywood residence. And that was argued, throughout this whole case. The problem that I have with ketamine, it's not looked upon as a favorable arrest with the federal prosecutors.
Hmm.
We've had so much ketamine, I mean, tons of ketamine, and denied from the federal prosecutors. They just don't want nothing to do with it. And
Wow.
yeah, because it's not sexy. It's not, it's not a hardcore drug. But this is what happened. You have plenty of people that are ODing from ketamine and,
Right.
and getting addicted, which leads to something else. It's a huge, huge problem. But I
Right.
remember working narcotics. I worked narcotics for several years. You would get, a bunch of ketamine coming in on a flight or on someone's bags, and they didn't want to touch it. And I hope that kind of turns around a little bit. I really do, because you get stuff like this. And she's a dual citizen from the United Kingdom also. So,
Yes.
which
Yes,
is
which is interesting. And it made me think like, oh, was she originally born there and got her citizenship here,
right,
or because I would say, could she lose her citizenship, either way due to the crime? If
right,
it is, if
right.
her secondary citizenship is in the US, is what I'm
It's
asking.
here. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But she's going to be in for a long time, and she's not the only one. There were a couple of accomplices that got arrested with this guy named Fleming and
Wow.
Perry. They all were assistants and whatnot. They all got
Right.
in trouble for this. So
I mean, he
it's
was
a
this
problem.
Fleming guy, 56 years old, former, film and TV director and an acquaintance of Perry. So this issue is just prevalent throughout the entertainment
Right.
industry.
Right.
And it is something, again, right, with the P. Diddy situation
Yep.
and with, other stars who we've seen suffered
Yep.
overdoses
Yep.
through the years tremendously.
Yep.
It's just so prevalent, and it still gets kept so quiet, and it's
Yeah.
just so disturbing that more doesn't come out about it, the filth
They
going
want to be
on
their
behind
guy.
the scenes.
Yeah, they want to be that guy in Hollywood that all these people go to. I
Yeah.
guarantee you that this doctor has 47 pictures of her and Perry. And, he probably calls her to go on vacation and bring the family and
Yeah.
do this and do that. And they're all friends. And this is what happens. And I've seen it. I've seen it, when you go into, when I was with the Secret Service, you walk into a VIP party and it's not a party like we're used to. I mean,
Right.
it's a legit, and you're like, whoa, what's going, not to say that anything illegal is happening there, but it is a much
Really,
different
Vin?
vibe. It's 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 a much different vibe, and it's a different atmosphere.
Yeah.
You know, going back to the whole zip thing. Going back to like the whole Monica Lewinsky thing, right? Secret Service is not supposed to testify
Right.
and to see what we saw, and they made us testify, and that kind of wasn't it's kind of like we're just supposed to be there to protect that person and nothing else.
Right.
So when I go like this, it's kind of like, yeah, for real.
Wow. Wow. Right. And I mean, we don't all get that level of secrecy, right? The regular population, the peasants,
Yeah,
they get, everything. Although they did that for Rex Harman. Look, we were just talking about the Gilgo killer, right? So the
yeah,
whole part that he didn't take the full deal was
right.
because he didn't, according to, one reporting is that he did not want all of his secrets to fully come out.
Right.
They
Well,
granted him that.
I mean, he does have a family. So
Yeah.
do you really want all that to go on trial? I mean, he's looking after his family at this point. If that was a single person, I would almost be like, he probably wants the deviousness to come out so he can get like these
Right.
followers and all this nonsense.
Yeah.
But I think at that point it's like, crap. I got 2 kids and a wife that has to live with this for the rest of their lives.
I'm surprised he would even be that concerned about that. I think he's more about shielding his secrets, this guy. The daughter was in the courtroom crying hysterical.
Yeah.
I mean, they were like,
Yeah.
and
How
you
could
did
you
what
not?
to this victim? Oh, yeah, strangulation. Yep. And
Yeah.
she's crying hysterical. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
what? And the house, like you said, that they lived in, it was the house he grew up in.
Yeah.
He was an
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
architect and did not fix one window in this house. It really did look like, a house of horrors in
I'm
there.
telling you, my friends like, we passed that house on, for Halloween. We just kind of like went past it. So it's a
And here we
little,
see two different lives between Perry and the Gilgo killer. Even though he was an architect and obviously, prominent in New York City, we have Perry, who's been on the screen, loved, in the Friends shows, and the downfall coming from, just what
yeah,
like a degradation of your own values.
yeah.
It's
It,
crazy.
yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. I feel bad, for Perry because when you get addicted to this stuff, and I've seen it, I've witnessed it firsthand. It can start with the littlest thing, and then it just slides right down. And here we have it. No more, no more Chandler, which kind of
No,
sucks.
no, no, I know.
So, but
What they say, could it, our producer says, could she be any more guilty? Like, just the same way that
yeah,
Chandler would say it.
yeah.
Oh, I
But I mean,
can't.
look, go back 18 years ago, whatever, with Michael Jackson. I mean, it was the same thing. Like
Yes,
his doctor got, in trouble too.
that's right.
It,
And wasn't it true with Prince, the singer, as well? Wasn't there
yep,
something with him as well? Oh,
yep.
wow. It really
So
just
it
goes
it
on
it
and on
happens.
if you start
It
thinking about it.
it's always money is the root of all evil, and that's
Yeah,
what it is. They want to be that person. They overcharge him. If he charged, $6,000 to Matthew Perry, that was probably $500 worth of ketamine.
you're
But
right.
she's making a killing. He's going to tell his friends, his rich friends, and all of a sudden, this person's making a fortune, and
Yeah,
it's a shame.
it
It's a
is.
shame
It
because
is
they
all for
say,
material things, right? All for
yeah,
their material assets.
yeah, because they
Again,
don't think it's
greed.
a big deal. They just
Nope.
don't think it's a big deal,
No, they
and
don't care
that's
for
it.
other people's lives. But
Yeah.
Courtney Williams, talk
Oh
to
my
me
God.
about this, Vin. Is she the new Snowden?
Uh,
What's going
uh,
on
uh,
here?
Uh, you know what? Look,
Wow.
she should be arrested. I know her defense is she's trying to be, be a a figure
Whistleblower.
out there and all,
Yeah.
whistleblower and all that stuff. But look, you have a level of top secret clearance. You have to abide by that. I mean, I have so many things that I've seen and I've witnessed, not bad things, not good things, just things that shouldn't be talked about because it's not of anybody's business.
Right.
That top secret clearance is just a need to know, and it wasn't like I could, be driving, President Clinton and then just go walk into his secure room in a skiff or something like that. Unless I needed to be there, you don't get that information. But she is going to get time. She was she had I don't know what her role was, like a support role at Bragg, but I think she had like, like 10 hours on the phone in Texas and, 180 messages, 200 messages or something going back and forth with this journalist. You can't do that, especially when it's, when it has to do with military stuff and like you don't know where that's going to lead. You don't know who that person who you're talking to, what their intentions are. Maybe they're a spy for somebody else. Like you just got to cut it and say, listen, I don't know what to tell you.
So this is the deal with her is that now, she's claiming that it was more like whistleblower status. But I'm sure that there's a procedure for whistleblowing that doesn't
There is.
involve speaking to a
Yeah.
journalist.
You go before
Uh,
Congress.
Right, exactly. So she alleges that there was misconduct and safety risks and criminal activity that she had witnessed or learned about while working in her unit, sexual misconduct, drug use and distribution, criminal activity such as assaults, cover ups,
Yeah.
and mishandling of evidence.
Yeah.
But again, these are things I'm not quite sure because they do have like her text or her messaging saying that she was afraid of getting brought up on
Backlash.
or
Yeah.
for leaking classified information. However, these seem like issues that maybe you should have brought to I guess some type of unit or a
There is.
department.
There
And
is. There's
again,
proper
people
channels.
say, oh well, that doesn't work, right? Like
Right.
Snowden couldn't bring that the government was surveilling the American people and whatnot to the department that kind of controls all
Right.
that. So
Right.
it's like a
Right.
catch-22.
Yeah, but there are government programs. There are groups that you can within the government. Like we had I forgot what it's called, but where we voice our complaints or issues or we're being treated unfairly or this is what I saw. There's the proper channels of doing that. You just can't go outside and be like, I'm blowing this place up.
Right.
With all this, you just
I
can't
guess
do
she
that.
wanted to do it without repercussion because
Yep.
I guess she was going to be what to the journalist wasn't going to mention her name apparently, right, in the book because she was
Right.
like, I don't want to get, caught for leaking classified information. So
If it,
therefore it had to be, I guess, a source is what the
well, I mean,
journalist was going to say.
somebody figured it out. It was her. So this is a
Right,
repercussion going to jail.
right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, look, there are things, and I always say, like, I talk to my friends that are still working. Whenever they can tell me, they can tell me. And whenever they can't tell me, they'll go, and I go,
Yeah.
I got it. All right. And
Yeah.
we'll talk when the case is
Right.
over. We'll
That's
talk.
what we do in my Italian family.
That's right. Only thing we yell,
We're not
and we use
talking
our
about
hands.
that one. Oh
That's right.
man,
That's
I
right.
can't.
But yeah, she's got a long road ahead of her because especially
Yeah,
with this administration and Hegseth at the wheel at that, that's gonna be a problem for her.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
hope I hope it works out. That was a stupid. I think that was a stupid thing to do. I could see how she can get caught up in it, but just hope
Okay,
she.
but tell me how compare those two, right?
Yeah,
To what we understand as leaks, right? There's always leaks coming out of the FBI that's the New York Times or the Washington Post just seem to have these leaks.
yeah.
How do you differentiate between the two? Because no one's getting busted over in these departments, CIA and FBI, which from my understanding, it's the FBI that is the overall leaker. I don't know
Right.
if that's conspiracy.
But no. They tend to have loose lips.
Loosely.
Look, what my thing is this: when it involves any kind of safety, when it comes to national security, that's a problem. Like you shouldn't be talking, to other people. You got to remember, like I know 90% more than you as a civilian, but I only really know 10% what's going on myself. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening. Somebody who may be just a clerk may have more access to something, may have more information than I have. So you really got to settle down. And I think anybody who leaks that type of information should be fired. And depending on the charge, if there are charges need to be drawn up, then need to be drawn up. I think any kind of national security. I mean, you don't know where that's going. How many people are now considered spies, right? How many times we hear about a Chinese person who came in who's got a military style job who just sold information to somebody overseas.
Yeah.
And I use Chinese not to pinpoint that, but I read
It's
look a
been
little while
happening a
ago
lot. Yeah.
it happens. It does happen.
I
So
mean, we had the issue, didn't we have the issue with Hegseth and Walsh with the WhatsApp, I think it was, and they
yeah,
had someone had accidentally let a journalist into the chat. They had the
yeah,
wrong name for the contact,
yeah,
and then the journalist went and like blabbed everything
yeah,
that was
blabbed
spoken
out.
about. Where were the repercussions for that
Right,
journalist?
right,
Like
right. I have a
so this
problem with that.
is
I actually had an argument with what I never have arguments. I went back and forth with one of my extreme liberal friends about that, and I was
yeah,
like, "Listen, man, it was an absolute mistake, and what do you do?" But nothing
right,
happened. Nothing happened to that person, and
right.
really should have been, or that person should have enough brains to be like, "Hey, listen, this ain't for
Right.
me. Let me just
Right. I'm
bounce right out."
accidentally in this chat, which I
Right,
don't think is accidental to some extent, right? Like if you have these high level positions and like you're going through your phone and you're like, oh, I'm gonna make a secret chat because
right,
we're gonna plan an attack on a country or whatever
right,
area. Let me just pull the five of us together.
right.
Hang on, Joe. Oh yeah, Joe so and so. Oh yeah. I wouldn't you double, triple check that it's the right Joe so and
Yeah.
so?
Yep. Yep,
So
you
something
got to watch.
peculiar
You got to
there.
proofread before you hit send. You really
Right.
do. The other problem with WhatsApp on an investigator side, it's a real pain in the butt to get a subpoena information out of there. It's encrypted, and you have a hard time. So you do have a lot of drug dealers and whatnot. People committing crimes working off of WhatsApp chats, and the WeChat also. It's a real pain to get information from the
Really?
courts for them. Yeah, yeah. So
Oh,
a lot of criminals, and they're using it because they know it's encrypted and it's more secure.
right.
So, but it's being used on the other side, which kind of stinks. You
Oh, you
know,
know what that reminds me of? That young man that was supposedly the creator of Silk Road, the original black, digital
yeah,
black market, right? When the
yep,
internet had
yeah,
this like and he was arrested. I'm digressing a little bit, but he was arrested and I think the guy was only 23. He was like a hacker kid at first or something. He created Silk Road at like 19 or 20, and the FBI was
yeah,
on him and watched him for a few years and then arrested him at like 23.
yeah,
And they gave him the sentence always boggled my mind. They gave him double life plus 40.
yeah. They want to make sure.
They had just to make sure if you rise from the dead, you
Yeah,
still got to serve another 40 years.
yeah,
But
yeah,
this is if what boggles my mind is that there was, if I recall correctly, no direct affiliation. It was just that he had created a platform that could not be monitored by the
right.
government or by those who control currency. And he had created that first type of digital currency where they were
Yeah,
like paying him where it couldn't get tracked by anyone.
yeah,
And I always wondered more if that was the real reason they gave this young man such a harsh sentence was
yeah,
because it wasn't about him getting away with a crime. It was about him getting away with his own currency.
yeah,
I thought that was a
yeah.
very interesting
Well, there
twist
was
there,
there was
right?
there was a few separate charges on that case, and they gave him the maximum amount, and that's why. So that they gave him the maximum amount on each charge. But you got to remember something. When,
Which is
when
crazy.
Bitcoin came out, me and my friends working, we were like, "Oh my God, we should buy this." And our bosses. There's a letter that came out. Our boss was like, "You are not to buy Bitcoin. It's being used for stolen cars. It's being used for drugs." So we all backed off, and it was like
Wow.
we were. It was like
You heard it here first, everyone.
right. It was like $100 a Bitcoin when we jumped up when we were like, oh my God, should we buy this? And we were just like, all right, they're telling us not to. If I would have bought $1,000, it would have brought me
You
back a
should have
million
bought it
dollars.
then. Trump just pardoned that young man.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
did. He
But
did. So you
back
could have bought the
then,
Bitcoin, Vin,
I
and you
know I could have been
you would
set.
have gotten pardoned. Don't worry.
No, but that was a big problem in the beginning. It was just used. It's just used for
Yeah.
You
for
know,
illegal, right? And it's hard because the American people like have to kind of be trapped in this currency, especially now that we see the dollar is dissolving more and more and people are relying on digital. It's going to become, right, like a
yeah,
big brother state,
yeah,
because you're not going to be able to do
yeah.
anything
Listen,
kind of private
right,
transactions, which it's not like every private transaction is bad. There are a lot of
right,
good private transactions,
right.
but so
Well,
that's a shame.
whatever.
But we should get on Bitcoin on another episode
Oh,
and
100%.
talk more about that.
Yeah.
NYPD, the cooler cop. Oh my
Uh,
gosh, this is crazy. I
uh,
think this is crazy. Tell me what you're feeling, because literally he didn't take out his gun. He didn't shoot this,
no,
drug
you know,
dealer. He
it,
just tried to,
yeah,
throw him off his course, and the kid fell off the bike the wrong
this
way. The
is,
young man, not a kid, a young man, a drug dealer,
yeah,
fleeing the scene and heading towards two police officers. And he tries to just knock him off his track so that,
right,
and uh,
right.
why?
Why?
Why? Is it the judge, Vin? What's going on?
You know what? He gets tried in a city that's very anti-cop, which is a problem. Okay. That decision, his decision of going to jail shouldn't be, he should be incarcerated over a 2-second decision that there was no intent for that to happen.
Right.
Now, what does he have in common with George Floyd, Brian Purdy, Renee Good, Eric Gardner? They're all doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And
Right.
when you have, 7, 8 million arrests every single year, some unfortunate things happen. It wasn't his intent to kill that guy.
No.
It was an accident.
Right.
Okay. With that being said, he died from his injuries. The whole thing stinks. But how many times are we going to say the whole thing stinks? Brian, the two shootings in Minnesota, the whole thing stinks. Eric Gardner over loose cigarettes, for God's sakes, lost his life. The
Right.
other one, it just, it all comes back to what are these people doing? That initial contact. Why can't you just comply? Not giving him right, not giving him justification, but things happen, and this is where we're at. It's just a shame to see that he's getting prison time for this. You know,
Crazy. And what are they saying? Upwards of 9 years?
yeah, could be 9 years. And quite honestly, uh, I would just, hey, for the love of God, can you just give him like house arrest? Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, if I went to jail and somebody finds out that I'm in prior law enforcement, like in my head, I'm like, I'm a dead man. Like
Oh,
I mean,
definitely.
yeah,
Definitely.
100%.
I mean, is this guy going to be in protective custody inside prison? Because that's what's going to need to happen. He has dedicated his life
Right,
to, being an undercover agent
right,
in drug cartel situations. Are you
right,
kidding me? They're
right,
waiting for him
right,
to get in there, especially the drug dealers.
right. Because
How this
they don't
conviction
even know
came
it's him.
down is shocking.
Yeah, yeah. And the biggest problem is that you have you know the new mayor has his I guess his view on the cops today,
Hmm.
but you're going to have this sentence is going to deter other officers from doing their job. Now, is their job throwing coolers at people? No, it's not. But their job is to stop crime. And if that was his only way of stopping that person on the bicycle, I don't say I wouldn't say I wouldn't have done it. Well, you know what I mean? I got to stop this guy. Here's the cool. Let me get him off the bike so I can go and grab him and arrest him or talk whatever you had to do. It's just man, the whole thing just sucks. It
Right. He
just
doesn't, so he
sucks.
doesn't pull out his gun, he doesn't shoot. Instead, he uses what he believed would have been a much less,
Right,
issue, like a
right.
safe, more safe.
He was trying to stop him.
Right.
He was just trying to stop him.
And
So,
and he's going to prison now for it. It's insane. And I think you're 100% right. I think it's going to deter a lot of
yeah,
people who maybe could have retired in another, 3 to 5 years. I think
yeah.
they bank in on early retirement. I also think that they're also going to stand down a lot more.
They're doing that right now. They're
Right. They've
standing
already
down right
started
now.
that, which is less protection really for the people around you. And at the end of the day, like, why, right?
Right.
Why would a government want to like put this as the means to, yeah, we want our police to stand down. We want to pretend that we protect our streets, but we really don't.
Well,
Why?
you had those years in New York where they were having these crazy protests, Black Lives Matter, and it
During
brainwashed the
COVID, when no
dumb.
one was supposed to be out,
Right. They
Black
were
Lives
allowed,
protests were
you
going
know,
crazy, and no
right.
one stopped them. Right.
Right. And just join in. Let's, block traffic. Let's do this. And people got away with doing stuff they shouldn't be doing, the arrestable
Mhm.
stuff. Like you can't be blocking traffic, you can't be smashing windows, you can't be doing all that stuff. I worked those riots with George Floyd. They were horrible. I worked it for 7 days straight. We
Wow.
supported the 4-3 up in the Bronx, and it was horrible. So I guess when you have these violent, these non-peaceful protests, okay, and there's no ramifications, people just like, yeah, screw the cops, screw the cops, screw the cops. And this is what happens. They listen to somebody on Facebook, they listen to their cousin who's been wrongly accused or whatever, and they they get brainwashed into these things that the cops are bad. But
Right.
they're going to be the first ones to call when shit hits the fan.
Oh,
And
always.
yeah, and that
Always.
so
And I mean, it's not to say, listen, and this is a problem too, I think, is that they highlight that police officer like Burke that we were speaking about earlier, right?
right,
Who does things that are unconscionable.
right,
We've seen movies where they do have, based on real life occurrences where police officers are engaged in some. They make a little group and they kind of 4 or 5 of them maybe in a unit, and like we just had another arrest, and a conviction here on Long Island, or in your place. I'm in Florida right now, but in Long Island,
yeah,
with them running a prostitution ring. It was, police officer and a high school athletic coach. I mean,
that's right.
seriously. So there are those anomalies, but unfortunately, they're now being looked upon as if, oh, it's rampant across an
It's
entire,
rampant. Right,
policing system,
right.
and that's something that's really
And the other problem that stems from that is that your level of candidates starts to shrink, because now nobody wants to become a police officer.
right.
So now you have people who would not have gotten that job a few years ago. Now all of a sudden they're getting those jobs, and
And
maybe
the
they,
bar to become a police officer has lowered over the
of
decades,
course
has
it
it
has.
not?
Yeah, of
Okay.
course it has. And
Yeah.
that, that's always been a problem for me.
Right.
Fitness wise, now you're allowed to smoke, marijuana a certain amount of times, or now it's considered, on the state side, it's legal here in New York, so that's not even asked anymore. So
Wow.
there's a lot of things that, they really got to tighten up, but you're not gonna get past this anti-cop rhetoric here in New York, especially when you have, Mayor Mondami, who's now cutting 5,000 police jobs in
Whew.
a time where we really need them the most. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm still hopeful it turns around. But we'll see. I just pray for my brothers and sisters out there
I
that
do too.
nobody
Prayers
gets
and
hurt.
blessings upon them for the hard work that they do. And
Yeah,
we saw with Dillard, a topic we touched last week, how they
right.
really do put their lives on the
Yeah,
line,
every
and
single day.
it's brutal.
Yeah, every
When things go
every
wrong.
single day.
Look at Washington D.C. too. They lied. She was fudging, right? The chief there was fudging the
Yeah,
actual crimes, but
yeah.
Trump came down and said, "No, that I don't care what you claim. That crime rate has dropped. We live here. We're seeing it daily."
Right, right.
And he had to bring in the National Guard. I'm wondering if that's something on the horizon for New York as well. But
No.
terrible. Terrible. I mean, here in Florida, they had the Haitian illegal immigrant who butchered, but with a mallet,
Oh,
the gas
forget in
station
Fort Myers.
attendant.
Yeah, in Fort Myers.
My goodness,
Yeah,
but thankfully he was caught like so quickly. Again, walking nonchalantly afterwards, you just murdered a woman, like, the
it was
gilgo
planned.
killer, just
It,
walking around,
it
planned,
was
yeah,
planned. He wore
smashing
the
her
same
car window to
clothes.
lure her out.
Yeah, he wore the same clothes as he did the last time he went in there, so she would remember him.
Right.
That's insane.
That is insane. And
Yeah.
so,
So,
and then
but
like
you
you
don't
said,
know
just
where. Yeah,
walking around
you
like
don't know where
normal.
these people are coming from. You don't know
Nope.
where they're getting their information. Which brings us to this other guy, this other influencer. What is it, Hassan Piker?
Yes. Yes.
That's his name, right?
Yep. Hassan Piker.
I mean,
Yep.
he's a famous streamer, and he's calling Jews inbred. He's slamming people who criticize Hamas. It's insane, and he's got thousands of followers, and people are listening to him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What
Uh,
what what do we do with that?
Right. And the whole idea of that too, that influencing is so big right now in this
Yeah,
digital world that, the Gen Zers and what live in. And so, and even beyond Gen Z now, I don't even know what they call the alphas. I don't know what they're certainly
yeah.
not
Who
alphas, but
knows?
yeah, the new generation
Right.
too. And he's speaking and inciting. You're really inciting is what you're
Of
doing.
course.
You're not an
Yeah.
influencer, you're an
Yeah.
inciter.
And
It,
that's my thing. If you are inciting violence, then freedom of speech goes out the window. I'll stand by that forever. You can talk whatever you want, that's fine. But when you start inciting violence over social media and everything else, you're going to get those people that it flips in their head and like, yeah, this guy's onto something. I mean, he even said it doesn't matter if there were any rapes that took place on October 7th. It doesn't change it. It doesn't change anything for him. It's
yeah,
just it's insane. And you
it
had
is.
guys like you had like people like AOC on there. You had Omar on there. You
Wow.
had Mondami on there. So you had all these people on there that are entertaining, you know, entertaining the lunacy. Now, whether their conversations were about that is irrelevant. I know, like, you know, I'm not going to go on somebody's show with
Right.
those extreme, on either side, extreme right, extreme left. Like
Exactly.
you try to just be like, how we always say the common sense approach. I
Yeah.
mean, who'd have thought Fetterman is the common sense, guy of the Democratic Party? Right? I can
I
listen to
know.
him talk all day. I don't agree with him on
Right.
everything, but for the
Right.
love of God, at least you could have a conversation with the man.
Yeah.
And this some people like that are a big problem, which leads to believe who are we letting into this country, who's
Right.
not being properly vetted, and is he starting his own little alliance thing on the side? It's just
Right. Is he U.S. born? I'm curious about his background.
yeah,
I know that there was a former NFL player. I can't Pradesher. I'm going to pronounce his name wrong, but Shah. He was on the news recently speaking out against Iran's abuses and
yeah,
how anyone who tries to deny that as an Iranian is not being honest. And
right,
he was very agitated and felt that what Trump's maneuvers in bringing the Iranian regime down were justified.
right,
And then you have this young influencer on the opposite end
right,
claiming the exact opposite. And what the NFL player said was that they've been chanting hate to America for
and
decades. And that's
100%,
exactly what this influencer continues to do.
right,
Yet you're making your name and your wealth off of
right.
the American people. And would you even be able to do that in Iran if you were putting down the
Oh
Iranian
my
regime?
God,
Absolutely
yeah,
not.
right. What happens if you show your hair in Iran? I mean, you can, as a female, you can get married at 9 years old. I mean,
Yeah.
here, you're going to jail. So it's much different over there. Um, people come in here with bad intentions and they listen to him, and it drives me. You don't know what people are thinking when they cross the border. You don't know who's when you cross the border. If you're not on that watch list, you're
Right.
good to go. And you don't know what someone's thinking. You don't know if that's a relative. This guy's watching him, and yeah, this is what we're doing. It's too much. This guy is too much for me. I try to, I listen to all news channels. I listen to everybody's point of view just to try and get a fair view on what's taking place. I put this guy on a couple times, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't, I can't listen to him.
Oh
And
no.
yeah, it's terrible.
Because if you have common sense, which they say common sense isn't so common anymore, right? But if
That's
you
right.
never mind that, but just the fact that if you're a person who has some type of empathy, compassion, any sense of values, you would
Right.
see right away that this guy's a fraud and
Right.
he's an inciter. And on top of that, listen, speaking across the spectrum. Dogs, okay, we can all agree dogs are so innocent and so loving, and our wonderful producer Amanda said that this guy, Zon Piker, was caught on live stream shocking his dog with the shock collar. Like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
let that alone. Unfollow,
Right.
unfollow. Like,
Right.
no,
100%. Yeah. And even there's a guy who's running for Senate in Michigan. He's holding two. I think Piker's involved with the campaigns, and he's catching
yes,
criticism for it. It's just like,
yes,
what's his name? Abdul Sayed. Abdul
yeah,
I'll say it. He's running for Michigan U.S. Senate.
yeah.
He's getting heavy criticism. He's holding two campaigns,
Right,
campaign events with him. Like, who's going to be there?
right.
All
That's what I'd
these,
like to see. Right.
yeah. Yeah,
Right.
all these supporters and man, I
Take
just
note. Mhm.
yeah, take note. But you know what? I'd like to be an influencer. I don't know what I'd influence, but you know, I think that would be kind of cool. Yeah, come
I
on, let me
follow you,
influence.
Vin.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the truth, influencing in the right direction. I mean, they're talking about all of these things that they may start putting on, especially since the case. This is another great thing that we're going to have to put on one of our episodes. But the case regarding the tech giants, I think they lost it, millions of dollars that they had to pay to families whose children
Oh yeah,
experienced
lost their lives.
depression
Yeah,
and suicide and whatnot
yeah,
as a result of the mechanisms they put, from what I
right.
understand,
Yeah,
like in the software that
yeah. It's an
cause
algorithm.
these people to be addicted.
Yeah,
And so very interesting how people like, Mark Zuckerberg, who you have a child, Mark, like
yeah,
it just blows my mind. But I think he's always been a very, F everybody, because that was literally his text years ago when he was building Facebook.
right.
But when somebody said to him, "Oh, these people know that you're collecting their information," and he was like, "Well, they're idiots, so who cares?" So
Yeah,
basically, if you're not aware, then you deserve to be taken advantage of. Great,
yeah,
very good. So you
yeah,
applied that mentality to the digital platform, and for those young users who weren't aware, and that's exactly what's happening with this Hassan person. He's taking advantage of people who aren't getting the right
right,
balance of media or
right,
aren't understanding the world on a larger scale yet.
right,
He's speaking into their, making their identity
right.
something, to align with him. And that's what the younger folk do. That's what we
Yeah,
go through.
and it's
But you
an
know
algorithm.
what? We come out on the other end, and we
Yeah.
start to realize as we get older. But unfortunately, people like him and people like Zuckerberg, who like to manipulate media, can really do a lot of
Well,
damage in that
you
time.
got to figure that there's some crazy algorithm that they came up with, but why in China that kids can only use TikTok for a 2 hour period?
Math and, yeah, for
Right,
learning.
and for learning purposes and everything else, and us it's just a free range of just nonsense
Right.
that goes on.
Right.
So you know, but I mean, with that being said, there are some Democrats that aren't siding with this guy. That guy, Jonathan Cowan, he's like the co-founder of the Democratic think tank. He's saying nobody should engage with him. There's a Republican, Democrat, Schneider, that's calling him an unapologetic anti-Semite.
Hmm.
So there are some Democrats that are steering away from this guy because of his anti-Semitic views and his, you know, I don't know. It's just crazy. The stuff that comes out of his mouth is just
And
crazy.
Piker, I think Cowan also said that Piker is anti-American, anti-woman,
Yeah,
anti-Western, and
yeah,
anti-Semitic.
yeah.
So, it's not just a matter of
No,
wanting to defend your background. Because
right.
it's more like he's got a lot of issues going on there. But again, that's what people are grappling with this regime. They are
Yeah,
anti-woman,
yeah.
aside from being anti-American, and you're
Uh,
here in America, and this is what you're spewing.
yeah. It's terrible. We're not going to hear. We're going to hear more and more of him. But look, we got like 10 minutes left. We got to hit this topic. I know it's crazy. We're going to be talking about this next week and the week after, that missing boater. Oh my
Holy
God, this is
cow.
insane. I thank you, Amanda, for putting up that second picture. That's the boat. Now you have a boat. I have a boat. That's the boat they were traveling on rough seas. To get back and forth to their 46-foot sailboat. This
Wow.
is insane. Now,
Wow.
if there is rough weather, if there is bad weather, if the tides are moving in a quick direction, you know as well as I do that you're not going to get on that little 8-foot dinghy. That's crazy. There's no
No.
rope. There's no you can't hand an oar out to that person. And what a lot of people aren't even talking about is if you fall off, the tide is taking you in the same direction as the boat. So as long as if she's a good swimmer like we hear,
Right.
all she has to do is swim for 3 seconds just to
Yeah.
catch up to that boat.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is he going to fall in the lines? Is this another, Peterson
He didn't have
case?
a rope. He didn't have anything to
Nothing.
throw to her.
How did he dock the boat? I mean,
Yeah.
was there an anchor? An anchor has rope. Did he tie it up?
Right.
There's got to be something. No life
Right.
jacket. No, no seat. The little blue squares that everybody sits on because you don't want to wear a life jacket. It's a floating device. It counts
Anybody
as a
who
life
has
jacket.
this much of critical thinking could see that something is critically wrong
Right.
with what went down.
Right.
And then we're hearing the background. So what does this guy have a little bit of a violent background as well, right?
Right.
So the
Right.
daughter claimed
Yes.
that
Choking
he
him
was
out, choked
choked
out
out.
a daughter or something. She had to go to court for it. I know there was police encounter. They were drunk one night, the couple, and the husband Brian had a bloody nose. I think she was arrested, but the charges were dropped. And I was just listening to CNN before. They said that they just received some texts from a couple of years ago. How the wife was like, "Hey, my marriage is over. This blah 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 blah." They
Wow.
reconciled and came back. But listen, there's problems. There's problems in that marriage. Okay,
Right,
everybody has issues and problems,
right.
and you work through it, and that's what it's all about. But for the love of God, like you couldn't throw her the oar or something floating in
Something?
there, and
Yeah. Oh, she fell over with the keys and the
right,
motor wasn't working.
right,
Okay.
right,
I don't know. I think I saw a paddle in that picture.
right,
I'm sure
right,
some
right,
some way, somehow that
right.
she could have, it doesn't make any sense. And
No,
then on top of that, it's like, well, if if we see the picture, right? And there
yeah,
they look happy. They look like these happy boaters.
yeah,
And that's the thing too. There you go, right? They look
right,
so in love. But the thing is that well, there they are. There's paddles on there. I'm telling you, if that's
right,
look, there's
right.
paddles right
That
there. What
that
is she
paddle looks
doing
like
with
it's about 5 feet long. If
that?
she fell over, he could have leaned towards the back of that boat and would have had about
Absolutely.
eight feet with his arms that would have been able to grab her.
Absolutely.
So, and
Absolutely. And the parents said that she's an excellent swimmer. She's been on boats her entire life. It wouldn't make any sense that she just
right,
fell overboard and couldn't get back on. It doesn't, something's not jiving. And
right,
when we see, right, like they say, people live a Facebook life, you're going to get an image that's fake book life, right? So
right,
that's what they equate it to. And you're going to see someone, yeah, they're on a sunset, they're
right.
boating, they look happy, but no one really knows what's going on behind the
No,
scenes.
no. Do you ever put
Uh,
a picture on social media of you in a pissy mood like this? Next to next to Anthony, it's crazy. Like you would never do it. Everything is, oh, look at us, look
yeah,
at we're in Italy, we're on the boat, we're doing this, we're out to dinner, yay,
right,
you know,
right.
Team
And
Marino,
I think like psychologically, people who may have issues and aren't happy will sometimes tend to, post these type of photos because the image of happiness brings them a little bit of
right,
peace,
right,
when the truth is just dig in and get the unhappiness and toxicity out of your life, even though
right,
that may be tough. And a lot of people don't want to deal with that confrontation.
right,
Otherwise, you're going to be getting thrown overboard, okay, by your very toxic husband or
right,
toxic spouse. Look
right,
at the couple hiking with what's that state? And he tried to push his wife off the side of the cliff.
right.
That was what, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah,
I
right,
mean, really? Like, so this guy's pretending they're going on a nice little boat, dinghy to their sailboat.
yeah,
And then he pushes her
yeah,
over. You got a guy walking with his wife on a, morning hike on a cliff, and then he just tries to push her over.
right,
Thankfully, she knew something was coming. So
yeah,
she had buckled herself down and sat so
right,
that he couldn't fully push her.
right.
And then she began to bite him and struggle with him because he still continued to try to push her over.
Crazy.
And then at that point, he picks up a rock and like smashes her in the head. She
Yeah,
still survived that.
right, right.
So, like, she had her guardian angels around her, thank goodness.
Uh,
But what is up? What is
uh,
up with this? These two men, like, but this
well, he
one
has to be
unfortunately
released.
did not survive.
He has to be released, I think, today because I know there's inconsistencies in his story. So they're talking about letting him go and then rearresting him to give them more time. So that's how they do it in the Bahamas. I
Wow.
don't know. So they can detain him. I don't know if they're misusing the word arrest to detain, uh, but they have him, and he's had a couple interviews where his story isn't jiving. So they're talking about letting him go and then restarting the clock with different evidence. So
Oh.
we'll see how that goes. But you had guys like we're talking about this, and you start googling like these cases.
Is
So
he
guy,
allowed to leave the island though?
I don't know. Yeah, that I don't know. I'm sure at this point he wants to get back to the States as quick as he can. But again, he's got a 46-foot sailboat. Now, you know how big that is. You mean to tell me you don't know the wind conditions, the tide conditions, this, that, and the other thing to take out an 8-foot dinghy with no motor and a paddle to
Right.
paddle to shore? I just, if that's not the works of pre-planning,
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what is. I think that this is going to come to another case of him, checking the tides on his phone or checking the wind speeds, when he was already docked. I think there's going to come some computer forensic evidence that's really going to put him towards it, because he's going to say, I didn't do it. And they're going to be like, okay, he didn't do it because you don't have anything right now. And that's outside of, a previous court case where he choked his
Goodness,
other
goodness.
sister,
Yeah, and
daughter.
I don't know what, like, we look at some of the crimes, right, that have been committed overseas, and we
Yeah,
oftentimes see that the cases do go awry. I guess
right.
they have a different method of, evaluation.
Yeah,
You're right, and that is sad and unfortunate.
yeah,
We saw it in the case with the young girl many years ago in Aruba, right, where
yeah.
was Natalie Hathaway,
By the
where
way,
she was Holloway, where she was. I mean that was just terrible. And then
yeah,
and other things too, with overseas cases, they just kind of get left,
yeah,
to the side because
yeah.
they're
There's
managed
no
very
body, and then
differently than they
there's
would
no
in the
body.
U.S.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah,
body, there's no evidence. That's it.
right,
I mean,
right,
there's a ton of sharks in the Bahamas. Maybe he's like, yeah, the sharks will grab him to, be old. Who knows?
right,
Who knows?
right.
I just, I just, I'm not buying this story, as and I was never a homicide detective, but it just doesn't line up. And that's the other problem. You don't have NYPD homicide there that
Right.
work 5 cases, a week. You don't
Right.
have like big city homicide detectives there. You don't know when the last time the Bohemian police, and no disrespect to them, but maybe they just don't get much of that. So,
Right.
just interviewing somebody, it makes all the difference in the world how you approach somebody. I remember I handled cases with child pornography much differently than I handled an interview for narcotics.
Right.
So it's just, I hope it works out. I mean, I hope I have a feeling we'll be talking about this again real soon. But I
Yeah.
hope justice is served.
I do as well for her and her family. Sending them
Yeah,
our thoughts. It's terrible.
yeah,
In the last 2 minutes here, Artemis. I mean,
yes,
congrats
yeah,
to these
so cool.
astronauts. A
Yeah,
10-day trip.
yep.
Wild. They splashed down safely. Thank goodness.
Isn't that crazy? We spoke about it last week, and now it's already they're back,
They're back.
and they entered the atmosphere like 25,000 miles an hour, and they slow it down to like some crazy speed. It's fantastic, and the pictures that they were sending, it was just
Yeah.
very, very cool. So
Yeah.
very, very cool. Congratulations, all them, and congratulations to us. I mean, we had Canadians on board too. I mean, it was just like a group effort with everybody. That's so awesome.
Yeah,
Very, very
the
cool.
image they sent too. So they never landed on it. They orbited around it, and the image they had sent of that what appeared to be a huge crater on the
Yeah,
moon. Did you see the
yeah.
size of that
Yeah,
thing?
it's bananas. Yeah, so crazy. Could you imagine just being there, just taking a view of that and going, wow.
Yeah,
And that one guy's talking, it's like, man, we're looking at Earth, and it's just like Earth is so special. Like when you realize when you take it out here, and all we've accomplished, looking, far away of all we've accomplished on Earth. It's just crazy.
it's
So very,
incredible.
very cool. I'm looking forward to the next one and the next one, and hopefully they land on that moon real soon.
Although I have to say this, I was a little bit surprised that the Daily News didn't have it until like page 13. And I think it was Newsday for Long Islanders didn't even put it until page 7. I'm not
Yeah.
quite sure why so many
Why?
other things would be
Right.
prevalent over an
Right.
amazing space mission, but
I,
just goes
I
to show you where,
I
you
know.
know,
I know where the priorities are. That's a historic mission, and you know what? Everybody came home safe, and that's all. That's all we care about. But that's it. We're done.
that's it. We're
Another
done.
week down. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Lisa, our
Awesome viewers.
producers,
Follow
Chris
us
and
on
Amanda.
Rumble. Catch us on TikTok. Ving, you're
Yes,
awesome. Looking forward to
yes.
seeing everyone next Monday.
Great time. Have a good day, guys. Have a great week. We'll see you next week on the Weekly Whistle. Thank you.